Hello, I'm Joel Blackford with Beth Hesed Sabbath Fellowship. We're virtual. Our building's been locked for 3 years now. We're based out of St. Paul, Minnesota. The phone number does work if you'd like to contact me. Of course, we're Beth Hesed Sabbath Fellowship. We do the philosophy of eschatology, what you need to know, your reality, our existence, the thought behind the thought of Revelation, and we try to solve a little piece of Revelation each week. We're going to solve something interesting this week. First, I want to mention a shout out to my friends from Beth Emanuel. I attended there yesterday. I bumped into a listener, a viewer. That was intriguing. There aren't many viewers out there of what I do and what Beth Hesed has been doing over the years. We were never a large congregation, so when we closed down, it wasn't that big of a deal. And John Haller does the best job at eschatological news, but Daniel Lancaster and Aaron Eby and all the scholars at First Fruits of Zion do the best job out there. So my recommendation for you is, if you can't attend a great place like Beth Emanuel, that you would go out and get Torah Club and start your own home fellowship and spend time with it, because you'll learn so much more. So anyway, that's a plug. Thank you very much to the crew over at Beth Emanuel for allowing me to bore you all day yesterday. I had a blast. It was wonderful. So we're going to be talking about the fourth horseman today, and really all four horsemen, because I'm going to argue that all four are going to ride simultaneously, and it's there in the text. Now, there are discrepancies in the text, but we should cover it. So it's a him, but then it's a them. And I'm going to give you my opinion. As always, I argue that the Matthew 24 linear birth pang theory works, that's basically the seals. And the first seal is kind of the nation versus nation. Then the kingdom versus kingdom is the second seal. The third seal is limo or loimo, and that would be famines or plagues and things like that. And then the fourth one is going to be specific plagues. And then quakes would be the sixth seal. And the fifth seal seems to be they will condemn you to death. So this is Matthew 24 that really sounds like the seven seals. I realize there's a gap from the sixth to the seventh seal that moves all the way up to chapter 8 from chapter 6. But it is interesting, and I'd like you to be aware of it. So we do the philosophy of eschatology, what you need to know. We're talking about the four horsemen of the apocalypse today. We try not to twist the Bible. We're really trying to give you news stories, but really more the thought behind the thought, the philosophy of the end of days. So what I want you to see is that we've got Zechariah 6 directions. There have to be directions, and so there has to be some pattern that matches up with the Bible. So Revelation 6 sounds like Zechariah 6. And these are the four spirits of heaven going out from standing in the presence of the Lord of the whole world. The one with the black horses is going toward the north, and the one with the white horses towards the west, and the one with the dappled horses. Or that could be barad, which would be like a speckled or dappled or mottled or grizzled or whatever else toward the south. It could be green, but dappled or mottled or grizzled. And that's very intriguing. It adds some more definition onto where we're going with Revelation chapter 6. So just keep that in mind, and here's the little chart down below. And I'd like you to see that he's comparing Zechariah 1, Zechariah 6, Zechariah 1 again in the Greek or the Hebrew, and then with Revelation 6. And so it does match up very, very well. Three of them exactly. But then with the fourth one, it could be more speckled. So that horse in the middle, that greenish one that's kind of dappled or mottled or grizzled, that seems to work. Okay, so moving forward, the first seal. It's my argument that it's west based on what we mentioned. It's not mentioned very well. It's called Acharith in the Hebrew of Zechariah 6, but that means behind you, west. And so I'm arguing that it would have opened during the most traumatic time ever in the history of modern history, which is 1967 during June, when the Jews said, hey, thank you, God, for the Temple Mount area. We're going to hand that back. We don't want it. Well, you never hand back a gift from God. If he gives it to you, keep it. Now, it's my personal theory that during that time, I was alive, and I'm quite old, and so from 1967 through 1973, I attended a church camp. So during the time when God was moving visibly in Israel, First of all, they won the Six-Day War, and secondly, they almost lost it in 1973 during the Yom Kippur War. And so that was what they deserved, because they handed back a gift, and it was a great gift. It was the Temple Mount, and they would love to have, control over it right now, but they gave it back. So basically, there were revivals at my place, which would be Red Rock. There was a 1970, there was an Asbury revival, and there is a revival right now, and it's a real revival, people. It's a real revival. I have done enough background checking on this with credible people. It's a revival, but there was a revival in 1970 also. And so God gave us so much. We kind of didn't do much with the revival that God gave us from 67 through 73. So what has happened as a result of that is, based on the first seal, Western civilization has been collapsing. And you see it, you know it, you just don't describe it that way. But yeah, that's exactly what it is. He has a bow, but no arrows, so it's really no progeny. And so Stephanos would be not a crown, but a wreath. It's basically a garland in this case, according to this literal standard translation. I love this translation. And then, of course, the West is based on Zechariah 6. So when I saw the Lamb opened one of the seals, and I heard one of the four living creatures saying, as if it were a voice of thunder, "Come and behold." And I saw, behold, a white horse, and he who is sitting on it, having a bow. It's taxon in the Greek, and it's keshet in the Hebrew. The first reference to that, I show you the bows up there, is Genesis 9:13, the rainbow in the cloud, and it shall be a sign of the covenant between me and the earth. Well, it's also that rider there with the little flag above his head, okay? So that is the fall of the West, and it's a lot of issues with the West falling, but part of it is that rainbow issue. So the garland is what he's wearing. That's a winner's type of a wreath, okay? And so this picture gets it pretty well. Bow, no arrows, wreath, and then the rainbow. And he went forth overcoming. I love this phraseology of this literal translation. Overcoming, that he may overcome, I'm saying, Western civilization. And you're seeing it, people. You're seeing the West just implode. So that's the first seal. And there are players involved. There's the World Economic Forum. You can see they added, instead of O's in there, there's sixes, three of them. And they want to reduce truth and introduce chaos and reduce population and overcome us. According to Daniel 8:12, the truth should get smaller as we approach the midpoint. At the midpoint, truth should be cast to the ground, and lawlessness should be thoroughly dystopian. And you're seeing that, okay? So what is a woman? Why do we need genders? Why can't children be sexualized? What is a depression? Or a recession even. They won't even give us that. What is food? Oh, it's not bugs. So why do we need farmers? Why do we need private property? Why do we need money or, physical money? Why do we need laws? Things like that. That's the problem. Everything's up in the air right now. It shouldn't be. Kids need rules. Adults need rules too. So this is coming from Ben Davidson from Suspicious Observers. I'll cite him again. He's more of my sixth seal guy, which is all the signs, and we'll go through that in another video. But anyway, the main thing is they are overcoming and forcing you to question your reality. And Ben's arguing the Matrix is really fake science. There's a culture war going on. That's the first seal. We're being conditioned. That's first seal. Degeneracy. That's seal 1. And the control issue. So fake science, you'll see that become a huge issue during the sixth seal. But there's their science versus real science. There's race versus race. We don't want to fight. We don't want race wars, but they're fomenting it. There's men versus women. I don't want to fight with women. They're beautiful. So why would people try to force that? But they are. And to isolate you, condition you to doubt reality, foist degeneracy upon kids, and control our minds. This is what's happening. This is the first seal. And we want to be red-pilled, but it's so easy to just eat the blue pill and be done. So basically, we're all searching for this red pill and what it is. They're overcoming us. So at some point in time, you run down this rabbit hole, and then nihilism becomes the only reasonable outcome. And so that's the problem. They want us to be nihilistic. They want us to be, I'm blanking on the crazy guy that came up with nihilism. German. I'm sorry. It doesn't matter. I can't stand that philosopher. But nihilism was his only outcome, and he went crazy. He was the one that said Nietzsche. Nietzsche. Yeah, I knew I'd come up with him sooner or later. Can't stand him. So, yeah, get ready for the suppositories. They want to sulk and sulking. We really should be preparing for the tribulation. We seem to be getting closer. And most people agree with me now that we are in some kind of birth pangs. 1967 started the death of Western civilization. This is from Paul Craig Roberts, and he's really arguing basic things. Parents are demanding accountability from school boards. They're thrown out of the meetings. Who dares to speak freely? They're thrown in jail. We just saw that frequently up in Canada recently here, but we also saw it out in Rhode Island. She was thrown, being sued rather, for questioning things with the school board. There you go. The West is dead. And this is Paul Craig Roberts saying the West is dead. It was destroyed by liberals who infused the West with self-doubt. Oppressed Western peoples, such as the Dutch farmers, are so oppressed that violent resistance never occurs to them, or even resistance. We're just, I don't know, maybe we're too wealthy, whatever else, but I agree with him, and I agree that it started in 1967. He didn't say that, but I've been saying that for years. So, and Paul Craig Roberts is a brilliant man. So number 2, East. So what are the key phrases there? The first one is, when the Lamb opened the second seal, I heard the second living creature say, come, and then another. That's a key word for you to notice. That's the word allos in the Greek. And what you should see with that is these are all the same spirits. They're all the same, just like Zechariah 6. So when somebody, say, the SDAs will scream to you that the first one, the white one, is Jesus. Well, it's not. And so what you should see with the first seal is the appearance of purity, but now you're going to see red, and red is going to be fiery, and really it's going to be killing people, and there's a large sword involved. So basically the sword is the Machira sword. Keep in mind, when we get to the fourth seal, it'll be a Ramphea sword. So this is just a short. So if I was in a general warfare situation 2,000 years ago, they would hand me a 2-foot sword, and I would just march forward and stab people and try to kill them, and hack them and kill them, and anything, any way just to kill. But they wouldn't give me a great sword, and they wouldn't put me on a horse, and they wouldn't put me in a chariot. I'd be a foot soldier. I'm a big tough guy, so I would be down on the ground. And so War and Destiny, who started all of this? Well, it's Mr. Bush, W. Bush, and his father for that matter too. I'll prove it more, but basically this is Revelation 6:3-4, and so they're taking peace from the earth, and they're making people kill each other. Seems accurate to me. And so what did Bush and Cheney do? Well, in 2001, it seems like they set up the disaster so that they could go to war. They were going to go to war anyway by 2003, and they did. Okay, and so I argue that 2001, 9/11 really kicked it off. And so this war, this general close-quartered war, has occurred east of Jerusalem, and it ensued in 2003. And so it was 3/19 of 2003, Adar 2/15, which is, hey, that's tonight here, or tomorrow night, rather. And so we're coming up to Purim right now. This apocalyptic war declared on the Arabs, and it's just another horse, guys. There's no big difference between the horses. So there's no Jesus on the first one, and there's no Antichrist on the first horse. They're all basically the same spirits. And it's Rumsfeld and Bush and Cheney, the warmongers, the neocons, the bad guys. And they are the military-industrial complex, and that's what I argue is the second seal. Okay? The third seal is north of Jerusalem, and this is, I wanted to show it to you in the context of the complete Jewish Bible. No, this would be the Orthodox Jewish Bible, because he has some interesting phrases. So when he opened the Chotam, that's the third seal, Hashlishi, I heard the Hashlit, the third living creature, say, come and see, and I saw, and then, hey, the Sus Shukor, so that's the black horse, and the one sitting upon it having a pair of scales, that denotes judgment. So Philip Goebel is right, it denotes judgment in his hand, and the hand is the judgment it's the gavel holder and things like that. And that's from Zechariah 6:2. So he gets it. He sees this as being Zechariah, just like I've been citing. Zechariah 6 sounds like Revelation 6. And heard as if it were the voice of coal in the midst of the Arba, the four coyote, the four living beings, saying, a quart of wheat for a denarius, and a shlosha of quarts of barley for a denarius. So for the poor get the wheat and the barley, but the shemen, the oil, and the yain, the wine, for the wealthy, because they can afford it. And so you may not harm. And the word there in the Greek is adikeses, and that's avonim in the Hebrew. It translates back pretty well. So avonim, avon sins are willful sins. So do not harm these poor people, you wealthy people. Do not harm them. So it's a huge warning with the wealthy people, because they're going to eat and they're going to have their wine and their oil, and they're going to mock the poor people with just their barley and their wheat. And so this is a willful sin. So basically, remember Sodom and Gomorrah? If you look at Jude, it's going to talk about that they had another sin. But really, if you go to Ezekiel, the sin of Sodom and Gomorrah is that they wouldn't help people. They didn't care about people. And that's a von type sin. So that's a willful sin when you won't help the poor. And so part of the problem is, just before 2012, when this opened, was the Muslim Spring, or the Arab Spring rather. And so you can see the countries listed there, and it just got worse and worse and worse, and it's getting much worse now. The inflation is so much worse. And with Ukraine not able to ship grain down to there, these people need to import grain, and they're not getting it. So basically, the third seal opened during the summer of 2012. It was prophesied at Beth Emmanuel. That's why it was intriguing for me to be there yesterday. And so basically, that's Hurricane Sandy. It was prophesied to be on that day, and then whip up a storm through the election day. And that's Hurricane Sandy, people. Okay, it was prophesied. And so, will you admit that the third seal is riding? Daniel, brilliant man, Daniel Lancaster, that I met with yesterday, admitted it seems like we're in the third seal, because he's noticing the food prices, he's noticing the food issues, the insecurities across the world. And so this Russian war is taking the breadbasket of the world and destroying all the wheat and all the other foodstuffs that would come out of there. And the world's going to starve as a result of it. It isn't happening this winter like I thought it would, but it will start more next winter. So keep in mind, there's extreme weather and other pandemics and things like that, but you have to deny me that food prices are great and they're going to get better and inflation won't be a horrible issue. You know it's bad. You know it's bad. Okay, so once again, 1967 for Seal 1, Moshe Dayan and others handed back the Temple Mount. And then seal number 2 is 2003, Bush, Cheney, and Rumsfeld starting their wars that won't end. And Obama joined in it too. Obama, he bombed a few countries too. Libya and Iraq and Yemen and Pakistan and Somalia. Yeah, I mean, they had their attacks too. So no president is clean. These are all the birth pangs of the Messiah. Now the fourth seal. Okay. And so you're going to see hailstorms and crop failures and other things like that, but it's technically 4 plagues. Okay, so when he opened the fourth seal, I heard the voice of the fourth living creature call out, saying, "Come," and I looked, and there was a pale green horse. Now that's the first sign representing death. Okay, pale green horse, pale green like that type of a color represents death. With this particular case, its rider's name was Death, Thanatos. Okay, that's the second reference to death, because his name is Death, Thanatos. And so once again, death in Greek. And Hades, Hades, is the third, because when you're dead, you go to Hades. And it followed after him to them. Now, that's all of them were given exousia, executive level delegated authority over a fourth of the earth. No commas there. I put it in pink. That's 2 billion deaths. It's over a fourth of the earth to kill. There's no semicolon there. There's no comma there. There's nothing. It's Greek. You go right on through to kill. That's the fourth death reference with a Ramphea. That's a supernatural. It could be an invasion, but it's a supernatural, huge sword. It's a long sword. I'll show you in a picture in a second. Famine, that's limo again, so that is limo. That is crop failure and death. So he's named death, and he is Thanatos. He brings that. That's the fifth death reference. And then, and with the wild animals, that's Therion in the Greek. And that small animals could be biological warfare-sized animals of the earth. So that's Revelation 6, 7 through 8. I believe we're getting real close to that if we're not already in it. Now, I have brilliant friends that tell me, "Oh no, the word gay is in there. That is the earth, and so he has a fourth of the earth that he takes control of." Well, the problem is that word is mentioned twice, not once, but twice there. And death and killing is mentioned 5 times, and significantly, the name of this spirit is Thanatos, death. And he brings Thanatos in addition to 3 other plagues. So, and also when you read this in other places, it sounds more like death. Okay, it's not earth. So, I want to mention that this is a nice little site here. I'm blanking on the name of it, but they are ccsantamaria.com, and they say it has to be worldwide and global, really. And so I agree with them. You know, these 4 horsemen of the apocalypse have to go out in different directions. I'm going to say Zechariah 6 directions. They don't necessarily agree with me, but they do agree with this chlorophyll, which denotes green pigments found in plants, mottled appearance. So they gave me this wonderful picture, which I really, really love, of a mottled green horse. So once again, they like the directions, they like the green, and so I'm really thankful that they've given me these ideas and allowed me a visual picture so you can see what it looks like. Continuing on then, I'm beginning to sense that the 4th seal is open. The death counts from the what and what and variants and infertility, suicide, cancers, war, mayhem. They're amassing, okay? It's going to be a bad year. It's going to be a bunch of bad years. Once again, so these are the references. If you'd like to pause now and look at them, Revelation 6 talks about the Ramphea, Lemo, Thanatos, and Therion. Ezekiel 14 does basically the same thing. Ezekiel 5 does the same thing. Ezekiel 33 does the same thing. And Jeremiah 15. So many references, and in all of those cases, it's death. It's not control of a fourth of the earth. Okay? Now, we're getting into the point that's interesting because I've been citing this particular site. This is BibleStudy.info, and I love them because of the way they do the layout in the Greek. The problem is, it says his name was Death, and Hades followed after him, and these are both singular. Okay, and then to him was given authority over the fourth of the earth to kill. Okay, so here, and there's no comma there. You can see in the Greek, but is that to him or is it? And I kind of moved it to the wrong spot, but it isn't singular because in other texts, like the one to the right here, which is GreekBible.com, it is tois exousia. Well, that's plural, so it's masculine plural. Well, so which one is it? Let's go look at it from another source. Blue Leather Bible looks like it's going to be plural, and so wow. Well, what does that mean? And here's kata biblon, and that is plural again. So what does that mean? It's basically personal possessive pronoun, dative, plural, masculine, and it's definitely masculine in all 3 cases. So we've got these cases of him, but then to them. I'm arguing that it's going to be to them in terms of authority over the earth. So that means God sends out all 3 of the first spirits, and then the 4th one, and then they all get together and they all come against us. But you'll notice especially these types of plagues from the 4th seal. You'll notice again the Ramphea, that long sword. You'll notice the crops failing. You'll notice Hades following, but basically death, and then micro bio warfare. And then I'm arguing that it could be mass migrations, things like that. No fertilizer, crop failures, death, war, biological warfare, things like that. So different pictures, but all 4 coming at us at the same time, bringing, all of these things, all the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. To them is given the authority, this delegated authority to come after us. Okay, so once again, it's going to be birth rates dropping, menstruation issues, cancers and deaths on the way up, food insecurities getting worse, much worse, biowarfare on the way up, in addition to ethnic hostilities and national wars and inflation and shortages. All 4 horses and the fourth horse brings 4 plagues, so it's all going to come at us at the same time. So when it hits, it's going to hit hard based on what I'm seeing in the text. Okay? So that means you're going to see ethnic violence, which you're noticing already. You're going to see hatred. Just why? You're going to see national wars. You're going to see food scarcity, economic upheavals, plagues. You're going to see deaths. You're going to see then eventually, when you get into the 5th seal, you're going to see the false prophets and the persecution of the believers. Then, as Ben Davidson's been describing, the earthquakes, the cosmic storms. That's the 6th seal. You're going to, you're going to notice that all the 10 virgins are asleep. Increased wickedness, love growing cold. You're seeing that already. Uncertainty, fears. That's from Luke 21. Mental health issues. Yep, Luke 21. That's what you're going to see as we move forward. So now I'm going to give you some cases of the 4th seal. So basically, I'm arguing that basic food is a human right. Just the right to have the ability to just get food at a decent price. And inflation is a tax. It's a horrible tax, only on the poor, really. And so the UN deletes an article titled "The Benefits of World Hunger." Yeah, it's real. It's not satire, because the author came back and said, yeah, I really intended it that way, and I've written it that way before. So yeah, it was 14 years ago as an attempt at satire and never meant to be taken literally. No. In the face of looming food energy shortages caused by disastrous climate policies, the UN says hungry people are the most productive people, especially where there is a need for manual labor. Yeah, starvation does that. Don't worry, it's good for you. Not. So so the Real Andy Lee Show, thank you for pointing that out. So basically, they don't care if we go hungry. They know it's coming. And then our sperm declines. Yeah, there are issues where women aren't able to menstruate properly due to, I can't even describe what it is, but men are having sperm issues. And so they're declining sperm counts like you wouldn't believe. And that'll drop the overpopulation issue, that's for sure, very quickly. So it's accelerating. We need 2.11 births per family to continue on, but we're shrinking. I mean, Japan, you should see what Japan's going through right now. They're just shrinking so fast. And China, too. It's going to be interesting. India's going to do well. They're having babies, although they're having too many male babies, not enough females. I have to block everything out of this, but this is Dr. Betsy Eads, and she's on Greg Hunter's show, and she's really talking about the fact that there should be, at some point in time, 2 billion additional deaths that we didn't count on. And she's making a strong case for that. This particular protein can't be turned off. The poison can be transmitted from the people to the people, so to speak. Shedding occurs. And so it's going to be a rough time here, guys. Really, really rough time. So anyway, if you want to pause it and read this yourself, I had to block a lot of things out that YouTube wouldn't like. But the bottom line is Ed Dowd is talking about the same thing. What's interesting from YouTube is that they're allowing Dr. Drew, and there's Ed again, and Dr. Kelly Victory to talk about this openly. They probably won't allow me, but they do allow them, which is interesting, although he's a doctor, and Dr. Drew's done a good job over the years. So 4th seal, 2 billion. This is News Punch, and they're really saying that the WEF is saying there are 4 billion useless eaters out there, and they would be eliminated by 2050 through limited wars, organized epidemics, and starvation. Great, and this is a 1992 book. So this is a CIA agent that talks about it. It's too bad. It's really too bad. They want to eliminate 4 billion. 2 billion during the 4th seal, and then 2 billion during the 6th trumpet. So there are the sustainable goals from the UN. All of those will decrease population. They say no poverty, but really there will be poverty. There will be hunger, more hunger than ever before. So there's 17 goals. They're not hitting those. And so I'm arguing by 2030 that we probably will have 4 billion less people, because that's what they want. They want less bodies to feed and to manage. And even the religious people are jumping in. So this is the Russian Orthodox Church, Patriarch Krill, saying, if you want a war, we'll give you a war. and you want to destroy Russia, that would mean the end of the world. And so even their patriarch, their religious man, and he's a godly man, he's saying, you come from Moscow, we'll come for you with nukes. Should such a nation lose a conventional war, it would trigger a nuclear conflict. So death seems to be in the horizon because the United Nations leaders, not United Nations, but the NATO keeps on jabbing Russia with swords, and it's going to launch a world war at some point in time. So once again, Biden and NATO is provoking World War III against Russia and China. So this is from Seymour Hersh. When you blow up the Nord Stream lines, that's an act of war. That's an international act of war. And they destroyed 3 Russian gas pipelines. So they denied it at first, but then Seymour Hersh came out and said, no, it looks like they did it. And he found the information. So that's an act of war, World War III time. So one more thing moving forward, just so you're aware, I'll share more of this later on, but this is from Ben Davidson talking about catastrophism, and especially, his phases: Earth's history of disaster every 12,000 years, Earth's ongoing disaster. 1859 really kicked off some issues for today. That's the Carrington event. Then he does number 3 is the solar system shift. Then 4 is the galactic astrophysics that affect us. Then 5, solar micronova. When that hits, that's the 6th seal, guys, when the micronova hits. And then 6 is pole shift, glaciation, and new age of the Earth. So he thinks he can come through this. He's living near Denver, and it's just south. And so he thinks he can, whenever the issues hit, he's going to be up in the mountains and safe and be able to hide in the mountains when he needs to, and then get out when he needs to. So keep in mind, all of these things are going to occur, but the 6th seal is at a minimum 2 years from now, and we are in 2023. We're at Purim. So prophetic charts, keep in mind that the seals seem to open up beforehand, and there's the traditional view, and this is the Tracking Bible Prophecy view. Those are ridiculous views now. As we see the seals opening, we see the chaos occurring, and so I'm thankful that they're willing to share their charts with me so that I can share it with you, but they aren't working, guys. The birth pangs are upon us. So we are in the birth pangs. We're probably entering seal 4 soon. We definitely are in seal 3. The tribulation would come after that, then the great tribulation. And so don't be a loner during the 4th turning. This is from the Burning Platform. And I've been kind of a loner these years, and I won't be able to survive as a loner. And so obviously I'm not married or anything like that. So you need friends to get through. You need a collection of 18 friends that you can trust with your life. It's not about money or anything like that. It's just about survival as things get worse. So because people bring skill sets to your group. Okay, and you need them for a Bible study too. So whether it's Rosh Hashanah or Yom Kippur or Sukkot, what garments will you wear when it's a wedding? So keep that in mind and get ready for it, because we seem to be getting closer. Thank you. Be blessed. Thank you for listening to me about the 4th horseman. Be blessed. Bye.